Hi, all. Kinsey Schofield here with Maureen Callahan. Honestly, she's become my favorite author, the best book of the year, Ask Not the Kennedys and the Women They Destroyed. So many of you reached out to me and wanted to gossip about this book, which was great. If you haven't read it yet, read it, message me, we'll talk about it because it's an amazing book. But I wanted to talk to Maureen about Prince Harry at 40. Maureen, I'm so sorry to do this to you.
Why? First of all, Kinsey, thank you for the lovely comments about my book. And I'm so happy it's resonating with your audience in particular. Secondly, I love talking about Harry, Meghan, all things Montecito. Let's go.
Oh, okay, good. I appreciate your enthusiasm. All right. So as Harry turned 30, he had just left the army. He'd split up with his ex-girlfriend and launched the first Invictus Games. I feel like he had a lot to look forward to. I mean, splitting up with a girlfriend, but at the same time, his opportunities were endless. At 40, it's starting to feel like his options are limited. What do you think?
I think this birthday is going to be very consequential for him. I think, these landmark birthdays, they really sort of prompt in most people a kind of evaluation of where you are in life, where you want to go, how many good years you have ahead of you. I mean, he's officially middle-aged now. And it feels like in Montecito, the walls are closing in. This idea that like Megxit was going to open up their world and they would have this very American life full of opportunity. It actually now seems that his world has gotten smaller and smaller. Every report that I read and hear about, and I'm guessing it's the same on your end, is how increasingly isolated Harry feels in California. His friends, his family, everyone he really loves and has history with is back in the UK. And those relationships he's apparently trying to work on, but it's a very steep uphill climb.
Yeah, you talk about those relationships. Again, we're throwing it back to his 30th birthday party. So different than the 40th. Prince William threw a black tie party for his little brother at Clarence House. 30 of his best friends were there. They toasted Harry with cases of Highgrove champagne, which were sent by Prince Charles at the time. What does it mean that Harry left this out of spare? Does he fixate on the past? Does he fixate on the bad? Or was he doing everything in his power to make Prince William look bad in that book?
That is such a great point, that he left out anything positive regarding his brother. And he does seem to fixate and ruminate on the negative, or to even cast what could be generously considered concern, such as William in the early days of his romance with Meghan Markle, saying, you might just want to take your time here. You could look at that as great brotherly advice from one of the only other people on the planet who knows the kind of scrutiny you're going to come under, and who might be wary of people from outside their world working their way in. Or as Harry did, you could take it as a prime insult and more ammunition to have an excuse to hate your brother.
It's just so ridiculous. It's so unfortunate because we watched how protective Prince William was of his relationship with Catherine. And Prince William, I love Diana, but I do feel like Prince William was probably emotionally abused in a little bit of a way because Diana verbally vomited all the drama. William knew who Camilla Parker Bowles was when he was a teenage boy. Diana was oversharing with him when it came to the problems in their marriage, and Prince Harry was not that ear. So Prince William did have a different perspective when it came into when it came to choosing a life partner. And you're so right that Prince Harry is immediately feels victimized by Prince William saying, "Do we want to pump the brakes? Do we want should we at least do a formal background check before we start handing over our dead mother's jewelry to Meghan Markle?"
Yes. Or see how she really acclimates, see how she really does it seems that once Meghan was inside the fold and on the marriage track, and remember, the Queen herself fast-tracked Meghan into the family like no other royal bride before.
Right.
The mask came off. That's when we started hearing about the bullying of staffers and the churn and burn, and William going to Meghan personally and saying, stop this. We don't treat people like this. We don't talk to people like this. She has not learned that lesson. It was just reported like a week ago, right before their Colombia trip, so maybe 2 weeks ago, that their highly coveted, experienced chief of staff, after 3 months on the eve of their trip, was like, I am out of here.
I mean, where there's smoke, there's fire. After 4, 5, 6 years, like the fact that anyone can deny that is wild to me. Now, Harry has continued his legal fight over changes to his police protection when in the UK, despite losing his initial attempt to appeal. A source from the Sussex camp told People magazine the Sussexes would change tack and stop revealing private details if their security in the UK was restored. How is this not extortion?
100%. So there are two things I want to mention in regards to this. The fixation on getting police protection, it almost seems like a psychological chip that Harry is trying to prove, I too am worth as much as my brother,
Oh,
right?
yeah. Oh, yeah.
I too am this important to the realm. Secondly, he just quietly appeared at his maternal uncle's funeral, Lord Fellows, right? He was in and out. Nobody knew. It didn't seem to require a massive police presence, massive security. And frankly, thirdly, they're rich enough to afford private security on their own. So this all just feels, again, like it's all self-defeating ultimately, don't you think?
Yeah, I mean, 90, all they have to do is request 28 days. They have to let the UK know what their itinerary is. And I do believe that you're right. A huge chunk of this is, I want what William has. I am just as good as Prince William. And you know that Diana and Paul Burrell would call Harry Good King Harry and joke about how Harry wanted to be king. I mean, he was brought up to think he was just as important, and that was probably important to Diana. I'm glad she was kind in that way, but she's created a monster. But at the same time, you know, just give them 28 days notice. I think they're control freaks and don't want to tell anybody what they're up to. There's a 99.9% chance they're going to get the exact security they want. If Harry's headed over for a charity event, if Harry's headed over to see his family, but if Meghan Markle wants to Christmas shop, taxpayers are probably going to have a hard time paying for Meghan to fly over to Christmas shop. You know, it's just they are most certainly going to get that protection. Harry just hates that he has to ask for it. And that's, you know, just deal with it. You left. These are the new rules.
That is such a great point. And I think I didn't know that. I didn't know there was just a 28-day window. Just
You
say
just
you're
have to ask.
coming. What's the big deal? Like, do you know, it's just everything. It's always something with them. They will never, ever be satisfied. And
Right.
it really makes you wonder, especially with this, you know, big birthday coming up for Harry. By all accounts, Prince Charles is on borrowed time. Like his cancer is very serious. And you would think that the foremost priority for Harry would really be mending fences with Charles. And it was recently reported, again, just a few days ago, that Charles is not taking his calls still. That when Harry reaches a member of Charles's staff, he is told the king is unavailable. And all I can think of in terms of why Charles would be declining these calls is what he said to Queen Elizabeth in her last days when she was encouraging him to take the calls. He said, I am not a bank.
Oh,
Remember?
yes. Oh my gosh. Okay, well, that kind of goes into my next question very well. So Harry's late great-grandmother is understood to have set up a trust with an estimated 19 million pounds in 1994 for her great-grandchildren. The money was to be distributed between them, with the first payment on their 21st birthday and a second payment when they reached the age of 40. So I wanted to ask you, throwback to Harry complaining to Oprah Winfrey that his family had cut him off. I mean, again, a 30-something-year-old man sad because his allowance was taken away, but he's complaining to Oprah Winfrey that his family cut him off financially. Doesn't it feel a little dishonorable now that we know that he's got a payday on the horizon?
He's got a payday on the horizon, which he obviously knew.
Yeah.
And secondly, they were so busy in LA making all these multi-million dollar deals, like 60 million book deal with Penguin Random House, like a reported $100 million deal with Netflix, the Spotify deal. I mean, all of these things that are falling apart, like right between their fingers. Nonetheless, they were being overpaid and they were over promising and only ever going to underdeliver. I mean, Spare did extremely well, but at what real cost? I mean, reputationally, it destroyed Harry and Meghan, both in the UK and the US, and it destroyed his relationship with his brother. You know, even if they eventually reconcile someday, it will never, ever be what it was, ever. And that is a real tragedy. So I think that this looming payday is going to feel pretty much bittersweet. I mean, it's
Blood
kind of
money, blood
dirty
money.
money. 100%. It's dirty money.
Yeah. All right. According to the Daily Mail, the Duke of Sussex emailed People magazine to reveal the joy he received from his son and daughter with wife Meghan Markle. How pathetic does it look that a 40-year-old prince that used to be so cool is personally emailing People magazine? I mean, isn't there something kind of cringe about that? I mean, it's giving Ashton Kutcher, like it's giving Ashton Kutcher when we were getting too much Ashton Kutcher.
It's calling to mind South Park, the worldwide privacy tour, the Megxit statement, we just want our privacy, our privacy. No, they need constant attention. It is oxygen to them. It is oxygen to be personally emailing People magazine. I mean, my Lord, it's the same thing with the thing they just dropped like hours after Kate Middleton released her video, her momentous announcement that she was free of cancer, had completed her chemotherapy. They can't even let her have that for a moment.
Isn't that so sad? Because she just wanted to say, and I know it was elaborately done, but I felt like she just wanted to say, I'm coming up for air. And it was really just kind of, I'm just coming up for air. And like, I think it also was to manage our expectations. So we don't expect to see her at every event with Prince William, but to just need, you know, well, I felt like she wanted to connect, but also just to say like, I finally have some peace of mind and it's just for a moment because I'm still scared for the future. And in comes the Polo show promo. You know, I do have a question on here about Polo. Are you going to be watching the Polo show? And we talk about Harry and Meghan losing so many professional opportunities and watching those crumble. Was this Netflix so desperate to get their money's worth that they followed this guy around on a grassy knoll? You know, I think it's a reflection of their work ethic that this does not look like a sellable product, a Polo show to Americans. And Netflix just kind of went with it because they were like, you know what? Spotify couldn't get anything out of this cow. Like, we're going to milk it as much as we can.
It really does feel that way. I mean, polo in America, Americans don't care about polo at all. It took David Beckham to get some traction in the US for British football,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know?
yeah.
So it's not going to work. It does feel increasingly desperate. This Netflix show that Meghan also has going, she's now pivoting to cooking and friendship. I mean, if you want advice on how to lose people and be the opposite of an influencer, I guess. But Netflix punted that to 2025. Her new podcast has been punted to 2025. So it all does seem like completely diminishing returns. And if they don't have anything to offer content wise, which they don't, all they have to offer is their proximity to the royal family. And I
Yes.
also think that must come into sort of, maybe that's part of the factoring of Harry's reasoning about, I need police protection.
Mm.
I'm still a royal. Brand Sussex is still brand royal.
Yes. Oh gosh, I need a barf bag. All right. The
I know.
Sun reports that Prince Harry is set to head off on a holiday with his closest mates to celebrate his 40th birthday while Meghan stays home. To me, I read this and I thought Harry must be so excited about this because every time we hear about him, he's kicking it with the Geritol crew in California. He is constantly surrounded by older, more successful women. How emasculating.
That is such a great point. You know, the shadow of Oprah looming so large, and these self-made people, you
Yeah.
know, people who came from nothing and through dint of their talent and their work ethic and their grit and their grind, made like those are people he can't really keep up with. He
No.
can't. And when you listen to him speak, it's so like, and we've heard a lot. We've heard a lot since they left. All he can really talk about is himself.
Mm.
All he can do is navel gaze. He has the opportunity to meet anybody he wants, to go anywhere he wants, to have experiences that very few of us would ever have. And it's the whinging and moaning of a spoiled little boy who has never grown up. I think he emotionally arrested when Diana died.
And I think that he gets access to a lot of these people because they loved his mother. You know, I don't see the value in him hanging out with a lot of these makeup entrepreneurs and some of these agency big wigs. I think that they're like, oh, he's Diana's son. And that's why they're interested in him. And that's most certainly why they're giving Meghan Markle the time of day, because we remember when Meghan Markle was a blogger for the TIG and emailing Bobby Brown asking for samples. You know, I'll write about it. I'll write about it. Um, Harry and the ghost of Diana have completely changed Meghan Markle's world.
They have. And you know, Megan, it's so interesting because if what she wanted was to be globally famous, she got that. If
Yep.
what she wanted was a platform to further her celebrity and her influence in the world, well, I mean, my God, when she married into the royal family, she got it. What more do you need? And she thought she could take it and build her own celebrity and destroy the monarchy in the process. And that has not worked out. And she has become an eminently, I mean, I hate to use this word, but she's become an eminently hateable figure.
Mm.
And so has Harry. I mean, people blame her for this all the time, but you know, when you mentioned William's choice of a life partner, he chose really well. He chose someone who brings out the best in him.
Mm.
He chose someone who seems to encourage reconciliation and not a further fracturing of this family. And Harry chose the opposite. And I think that was a meeting of like minds. I really do.
Wow, that gave me goosebumps. That's the truth. I mean, uh, Prince William, you know, Harry actually says in Spare, like he alludes to the fact that Catherine just fit the mold. You know, Catherine was the safe choice. And the reason that Meghan was rejected was because Meghan was, you know, kind of a rebel, because Meghan just wasn't a cookie cutter princess. And it's like actually watching that video of them together with their children that they released this last week. Those are two people that are deeply in love with each other and that respect each other and that clearly lean on each other. It's not, you know, Prince William picking the right bride out of a magazine that the country will accept, that will look nice on a chair next to him wearing a crown. And it's really kind of the way that Prince Harry painted her, aside from complaining about her not, you and I are Americans. You and I would not share lipstick with each other. I'm sorry. And I love you.
Never, never. It's so deeply unhygienic. And that detail, I freaking love that detail because that to me says so much about Meghan Markle. This kind of forced intimacy,
Yeah.
right? What like I'm gonna make you love me. We're so close already. It's the same, the vignette when William and Kate are coming over for dinner and Meghan, California easy breezy girl, meets them barefoot in ripped jeans. Like it's such an affectation. It's such a like, look at it, it actually indicates someone who is the opposite of easy breezy. The
Exactly.
opposite of open and, oh, they're not huggers. They didn't hug me immediately. I'm sorry. They just met you. They're the future king and queen of England.
Yeah.
Oh, it's at those. But the other thing about Spare, and he can't hide this, is Harry also wrote about how much he loved Kate when she came into the family, how
Yeah.
much she was the sister he never had, what a smooth fit she was, what a balm she was, how happy she made everybody. It almost feels like he was a little bit in love with her.
Oh my gosh, I'm seeing all of these fan fictions written online about this, and my body rejects, Maureen. Let's not go there.
I'm sorry, I know it's very uncomfortable, but his fixation on Kate is just, the reprinting of the text messages. For someone who's that famous, that is such a violation.
100%. 100%. And just it's laughable to see him go to court trying to tear down these entire media entities over privacy, knowing that he just swiped his sister-in-law's text messages and published them for the entire world in like 16 different languages, GTFO, Prince Harry. Talk to me about how ludicrous some of these empty trophies on their mantle are. The royal family takes such pride in honoring their subjects, recognizing real heroes. And then to see this stark contrast of Harry and Meghan constantly accepting trophies. I think that the most embarrassing part is they are likely pursuing these through publicists. This is likely some sort of bizarre PR strategy, and there's nothing authentic about it. You've worked in the industry for a long time. Do you look at Prince Harry standing on the ESPY stage with the Pat Tillman Award as, some publicist checking a box off a list going, well, we got him another plastic trophy?
That award mystified me. The Pat Tillman Award, especially for anybody who may not know, Pat Tillman is a true American hero. He was an NFL star at the height of his powers, and he gave it all up after 9/11 to enlist in the armed services. He was killed by friendly fire. This was a true tragedy. So for Harry to accept that award, I thought if he had anybody good around him, the best advice would have been to respectfully decline that award and to issue a statement about how he could never touch the boots of a Pat Tillman. Sorry, he can't. I don't know that it landed the same way in the UK that it did here, but it was disgusting. Truly, Pat Tillman's mother came out and issued a statement at how disgusting she thought this was. But to your point, like everything behind them, they're glorified participation trophies. They
Yeah.
don't, and they have to know deep down they've not earned any single one of these things.
But what's the point? I mean, is it ego, or do they really think if they collect enough trophies, people will take them seriously despite the reputation they've developed through their own, through their own issues, terrible work ethic, difficult to collaborate with? Do they feel like enough plaques will bury the truth that they're potentially bullies and hard to work with?
I think each of these awards and attended awards ceremonies with these little red carpets. I went to the Ms. Foundation ceremony where she was awarded some bullshit thing.
Oh, did
And
you saw the catastrophic car chase? Were you the catastrophic car chase that
I
happened?
clocked out a little bit before that. Immediately after she stopped speaking, I was the first one out the door. I promise you. But she walks in through the Hertz Rent-A-Car Center as though this is a true. I mean, it was so camp. She was
Yeah.
the only one who didn't realize it. But I think that it's sort of the overcompensation of the intellectually inferior, right?
Mm.
Like, remember when they redid their website for the 8 millionth time? Because they're always relaunching themselves and always rebranding themselves. And it had this lengthy list of like Meghan's went back to her days at the TIG. It's like if you look at William and Kate's, it's like Prince and Princess of Wales. That's it.
Yeah, yeah.
And these two have like rosters of, their CV is just endless. They don't get that like less is more.
Right.
So I think I think they're just sort of these ornaments that make them feel better.
That's so funny. Yeah. Meghan Markle is like, I sold all of the boxes of Girl Scout cookies in 8th grade. And you chill out. All right. My
Yeah.
favorite royal viral moment in a long time was this video of King Charles meeting the New Zealand women's rugby union team, the Black Ferns. They asked for a hug. Then we saw the world's cutest cuddle puddle like happen before our eyes. Um, the girls all rally around him and he is just eating it up, all of these hugs he's getting from the team. That's not the racist anti-hugger that Meghan Markle describes. Are the royal family, never complain, never explain. It feels like they continue to have the upper hand organically. Am I right?
Oh, I think you're 100% right. And I think they've been playing this thing expertly from the beginning. Expertly post Oprah, recollections may vary, is a statement that will go down in history.
Yeah.
It is the brevity of it, the sharpness of it, frankly, the bitchiness of it. Like the English have like an incredible way of telling you to go F yourself and making it sound like the most pleasant idea possible.
Poetry.
They do. I marvel at it constantly. I work with a lot of Brits. I marvel at it. And I think that they have done everything right. They never complain. They never explain. They never hit back. And every time Harry and Meghan continue to do so, as they just did with this little drop after Kate's video, her well-earned victory lap
Yeah.
after a hellacious year, they look ever smaller.
Mm. You've worked in this business and you've had publicists call you and say, look, we've got this bad story coming out. I'm going to swap it with this story. Or what if I give you this client? Can you make this go away? I mean, that's how the industry works. Knowing how, PR people try to manipulate things behind the scenes, or are having seen what you've seen, is there a clear way for Prince Harry to change public perception, to win over the public again? I mean, what's it going to take? And I mean, the answer might be a divorce, but I mean, is there a clear path for him? Because I see the path sometimes and they could not run in the opposite direction faster.
I think you're right. I mean, that's exactly where my mind went to. It would have to be a divorce. Meghan Markle will never be welcome in the UK. She just won't. And I think it's going to be increasingly lonely for Harry when Charles passes.
Mm.
William is stubborn. He has made it very clear there is no way back. And if Harry were to divorce and begin leaking things about the hell that his life has been, the deep regret he feels, he would have to be capable of expressing real remorse in a public forum. I don't know that he is.
Yeah.
When he did those, he was on his press tour for Spare, and he sat down with Tom Bradby of the UK press, and he was asked about his and Meghan's claims on Oprah that the royal family was racist. He literally said, I never said that. We never said that. This is how thick the delusion is.
The gaslighting is real.
He can't take responsibility for things he actually said to a global audience. How many people watch that? Like 20 million in real time? Like as to Diana, didn't she always say Harry, she loved him, he was the thick one, he was thick
Yeah.
like her?
Yeah. There were all of these stories over the last few weeks about Prince Harry's olive branch. Spare paperback's going to come out. There are no new salacious details. My first instinct is lazy. Harry didn't want to do any work. Harry didn't want to update it. But I also think, like, what a missed opportunity. Why couldn't you apologize to your family? Like, would that not have flipped the entire world would have been talking about this apology? Maybe the royal family wouldn't have seen it as sincere, and it might not have brought them back together. But I certainly think it could have changed public perception if he would have just said, I'm sorry for any hurt this caused.
Yeah, or the great apology, non-apology that reality TV has brought to the culture, which is, I'm sorry if you felt that way. I didn't really do anything, but you took it the wrong way. It's really on you. I just think if he had done that, let's say he did that in a new intro,
Yeah.
it then undercuts the entire existence of the book itself, right? I mean,
Right.
think about the title alone. It's so aggrieved.
Oh,
Spare. I'm the spare. It's just, it's already setting you up to dive into this pile of resentment and entitlement and anger. And, we will never forget, I mean, the dog bowl, the broken necklace, Megan on the floor crying, waiting for him to come home, like all
oh
of
my
these
gosh.
great soapy vignettes. So I think he's probably hoping that like this reissue makes him some money, but kind of flies under the cultural radar, which it probably will, given that we're in this insanely wild election cycle and it's really the only thing anybody's reading or talking about.
That's true. And I loved your piece after the debate. I agreed with you 100%. Sadly, as I was crying on the floor, I agreed with the piece you wrote for the Daily
Thanks.
Mail.
Thank you. That was a wild, I mean, even before they opened their mouths, I was like, he's losing, he's going to lose this. He
Yeah.
just looked so, talk about anger and entitlement and like, I can't believe I have to be here. And
Yeah.
it's just never a good look to not only not look at your opponent ever, but like with his issues with women, to not look at your female opponent. It's like, uh, he did not do the work
No,
beforehand,
no,
clearly.
absolutely. This is probably a heavy question. You can skip if you want, but do you have any predictions for Harry at 50? Like it just took 30 to 40. What a different world he lives in today. Um, I can't imagine where he's going to be at 50, but I imagine it's still going to, you know, consist of his resting bitch face.
This is what I think. So to preface this, Courtney Love was once asked this amazing question, like 15 years after Kurt Cobain died.
Yeah.
Where do you think Kurt would be today?
Uh-huh.
Instantly, she goes, he'd be living on the Upper West Side with a supermodel. And I was like, she's totally right. And I think what Harry's future at 50 looks like is he's dissolute, overweight, probably mostly bald. He's divorced. He has no real home. He's like forever on a yacht, not his own, somebody else's, because he's always borrowing, never paying, and surrounded by influencers who are like closer in age to his daughter will be then. That's
Yes.
what I think. And he may eventually succumb to like a fatty liver disease.
Oh my God, that is
Not to
just,
be too dark, but I think that's the trajectory. I do.
I feel like I would rather have Kurt Cobain's hot model, but yes. Well, Maureen, thank you so much for talking to me. I love listening to your point of view. I love the way you write, and I'm so glad to have you in my life. I'm glad that I can talk to you like this because I just think you're so fun and smart. So, thank you for giving me a little piece of your day today.
Oh my God, Kinsey, thank you so much for having me. It's so much fun to talk to you. I don't think I know anybody, maybe aside from Meghan Kelly, who loves to talk about Harry and Meghan as much as you do and as I do. So I am here anytime you would like to have me. It is so much fun always.
That is a brunch that we need to have. That is a brunch that would go down in
100%.
infamy. All right,
100%.
everybody, you have to get Ask Not, the Kennedys and the women they destroyed. Again, message me about it. We'll chat. We'll go back and forth. And then also, Maureen, is there a specific day? I just see you constantly on the Daily Mail. Is there a specific day you have new content up?
I don't have a specific day. I usually go wherever the news cycle is taking me. So it's one
Right.
to two times a week, often two times a week. But yeah, no, but I am regularly there.
That's a girl boss. She's just making her own schedule, and I like that. All right. Well,
Okay.
thanks so much for chatting. I'll see you again soon.
See you soon, Kinsey. Thanks again.
Bye.
Bye.